another edition of Did You Know Doctor Who, or what you may or may not know about Doctor Who. This time we're going to have a look at one of the longest Doctor Who stories of all time, and one of the best. In fact, it's considered the best second Doctor story ever, The War Games. I hope you enjoy. This is the first time the Doctor's species is named and shown, the Time Lords themselves. Whilst we're used to World War dramas nowadays and whatnot, the idea of setting the story with World War I was highly controversial in 1969, as the wars were still on the mind of many, so having a sci-fi use the wars was a very bold move. Due to the length of the serial, there were 2 weeks extra pre-filming to get everything done. Quite obvious this one, but this is the last black and white Doctor Who story. However, many of the Pertwee era was done in black and white itself, as well as colour. Thanks to this serial, clips from Fury of the Deep, The Web of Fear, The Wheel in Space and The Highlanders survived, as they were reused in this story. This serial inspired writer Diana Gabaldon to write her Outlander series, having had a fondness for Jamie. This is the second longest Doctor Who story ever, behind the Daleks' Master Plan's 12-part serial. However, this is the longest surviving of the serials. This is the only time where both the Doctor's actor and their child appear on screen, as both father and son, Patrick Troughton and David, appear in this story. This is the only time the Doctor gets to choose what he looks like, although in the end the choice is forced upon him. John Pertwee wasn't even cast by the time the serial came out, hence why the faces are never actual faces the Doctor regenerates into. The German soldiers are wearing spiked helmets despite coming from the year 1917, for you see the spiked helmet was put out of use in 1916. The time machines the War Chief uses is called Sidrat, which is TARDIS spelt backwards. The Dalek that briefly appears is a model from The Chase and not from any Troughton era story. Originally there was going to be 2 serials, one that was 4 parts and the other 6 parts. However, production issues caused these 2 serials to be cancelled, and instead The War Games was created instead. Part 8 is the least watched Doctor Who episode until Battlefield Part 1. Ironically, it's the most significantly important part as well. The regeneration scene was filmed before the scene where the Doctor argues with the Time Lords. The Doctor kisses Zoe in Part 1, which is the first time the Doctor kisses a companion, although this isn't in the romantic sense. A Croton was meant to appear in the projection screen, but because of copyright it never happened. Real First World War ambulance was used during filming. At 10 parts and almost 4 hours long, this is the longest regeneration story. When aired in America, it never actually was split in parts, but rather shown in its full length. The First World War battleground was actually a rubbish dump in Brighton that had previously been used for Oh, What a Lovely War. The First World War set was also plagued with rats, and this upset Patrick Troughton so much he threatened to leave on the spot. This was unfortunately due to PTSD that Troughton had from his own war experiences. And now for some deleted scenes or things that were in the script that were removed. The first is, many of the Resistance fighters were intended to die in an alien attack in Part 5. Von Welch would have been shot trying to escape at the end of Part 5. Jennifer Buckingham was originally present when Jamie and the others were ambushed. By the time Part 6 was delivered, however, it had already been decided that Jennifer would not be included in the second half of the story. In Part 7, Smith's aide was initially a new character called Sergeant Wilkins, only latterly was the decision made to bring back Sergeant Major Burns from the first instalment. For Part A, it is implied that the alien race controlling the zones were collectively called the Warlords. In the original script, the Doctor and Jamie took advantage of a weakening of the barrier near the floor to push Zoe through, enabling her to turn off the field. Malcolm Hulke reinstated this scene in the novelisation. And finally, Terrance Dicks wrote the first 5 parts and the final part before writing the rest of the story. And that is it for today. I hope you enjoyed. The War Games is considered by many as the greatest Second Doctor story, and maybe even the greatest regeneration story. I do like this story a lot, but I do think that it is a little bit too long. I do admit that criticism does hold up a bit. It is a little bit too long, but it is nonetheless a fantastic story. Is it my favourite Second Doctor story? Well, no, I do prefer the Invasion and obviously the Mind Robber. Those are absolutely fantastic stories, and obviously the Evil of the Daleks is another great story from the Second Doctor era, but this is definitely up there in the top 5 by a long shot. The War Games is fantastic. It's got a lot of creative ideas. It is one of the most important, historically important Doctor Who stories of all time. I mean, it introduced the Time Lords and so many other concepts. It's a very, very good episode, a very good story, I should say, and I totally recommend it, even though it is 10 parts, and that might bother quite a few people who just want to have a quick watch of Doctor Who. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you next time.